Hello, everybody. Tracy Mrs. JDog Flanagan with you here today. I'm the co-founder and senior vice president of JDog Brands. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Tactical Treasures powered by JDog and Vet TV. Our podcast gives veterans, mil spouses, active military members, and military family members a voice in the veteran space to speak about their service, how they're affecting their communities post-service, and a tactical treasure from their past that has shaped their journey in their military career or life. Today, we have a very special episode with three very special guests, Sharon Kreitzer, Jim Cochran, and Julie Donahue. Donor Outreach for Veterans, otherwise known as DOVE, is a 501c3 organization founded by an experienced and dedicated group of transplant professionals. DOVE seeks to improve access to living kidney transplantation for veterans actively listed for a kidney transplant at any U.S. transplant center in the U.S. by facilitating individual and community donor outreach campaigns and providing education, advocacy, and support to all donors, and to then match those donors to a veteran awaiting transplant. This incredible organization was founded by Sharon Kreitzer, who is joined with us today by Jim Cochran, a Navy veteran and kidney recipient, and Julie Donahue, a mil spouse and kidney donor. Welcome, everybody, to the podcast. I'm really excited to talk to you. How are y'all doing today?
Great.
Super. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So, Sharon, we'll start with you. Could you talk to us a little bit more about DOVE, how it all got started, and what it is that you guys are doing there?
Sure. I founded DOVE in January of 2020, and it's really a work of love for me. I spent my career in transplant as a professional in civilian centers, and then in 2015, I helped to establish a VA kidney transplant center in the Bronx, New York. And it was while there that it felt especially gratifying to be serving veterans and trying to help increase their chances of getting transplants. I was a bit dismayed because, particularly in the VA system, access to transplant in general wasn't as easy for veterans, and access to living donation was even less easy for veterans. And when I was in the space, I just saw the vast ecosystem of support within the military and veteran community, as well as the public that wants to support veteran causes. So I thought, is there a way I could raise awareness that out of 100,000 people in the United States that are waiting for a kidney, at least 2,000 are veterans. And if I could raise awareness within those support systems, would people step up and say, I want to help a veteran. I want to learn about kidney donation, as long as I can, personalize my gift and it could go to a veteran in need. And so that was the hypothesis. I thought that if I raised awareness and I did the matchmaking and I supported the donors through the process, that we could start seeing a real increase in transplants for veterans. And I'm heartened to say that that has proven true. We just completed our 26th transplant at the Houston VA last week. And we have 4 more transplants already scheduled. And it's really tapping into this very special community and asking for help, and the community showing up. So I'm excited really for Jim and Julie to really tell their story, because I think they're the best ambassadors for what we're trying to do. And so I'm gonna leave it to them to say the rest.
That's great. Thanks for sharing, and I'm pleased to hear that you're making headway. That's really awesome. So, Jim, can you speak to us about your military career and service? I understand that you're a Navy veteran. What inspired you to join the Navy?
I think I was actually born and raised in the Midwest, so on a small farm in Kansas, and I didn't really see that as my calling. My dad was a military veteran. He was a disabled vet from the Army, and I think that's what sort of pushed me in that direction initially. I felt like I needed a bit of structure, needed a bit of guidance, and wasn't really sure what my future should hold. And that's really what drove me into joining initially. I knew I wanted to do something with planes. I love flying. We flew a little bit out on the farm. Would have loved to have been a pilot. That didn't quite work out, but I did end up being an aviation electrician on S3s. They were anti-sub planes. They were. I was stationed with the Squadron VS-32 out of Jacksonville, and we were assigned to the aircraft carrier USS America. So we did several deployments, and I learned all I could, not only about the electrical side of the house, but everything else. And I got to be an in-flight technician. So I ended up actually getting to take off and land 9 or 10 times on an aircraft carrier in the backseat of the plane. So that's my claim to fame. And and that was in the middle of the Desert Storm over in the middle of the war over there. So that was pretty exciting at such a young age to be able to do something like that.
Yeah, definitely. Wow, that's really awesome. So how were you introduced to Dove, and what was your experience like going through the process?
To be honest, I have my wife to thank for the majority of that. I wasn't even aware there was a group out there like that. We got to the point I had been on the donor list for about a year and a half. And I got to the point where dialysis was the next step. And we'd sort of been holding out hope up until that point. And the doctor said, no, you've got to start that process. And we went to the dialysis clinic. We had to go through the whole process of what it would be like, figure out what process was the best for me, even down to the point of, doing sonograms of my veins to figure out where they were going to set everything up.
Wow.
And that was pretty scary for me.
Sure.
And I think that was the point that my wife just kicked into gear and said, we're going to see what we can do about finding you somebody. I know it's almost last minute, but she scoured the internet and she found Dove.
Wow. Good for her. Good for her. That's awesome. So Julie, how were you introduced to Dove, and what inspired you to become a living donor for a kidney through Dove?
I saw Jim's story on Wesh TV.
Oh,
so
wow.
I was watching the news and Jim's story came on and he talked about getting a donor. And I think it was your neighbor, if I'm correct, that it was your donor. And so my husband is also military. He's 100% disabled. But when I saw the story, I said, I've been blessed with my health and I think I can do this. And he supported me 100%. He said, of course, yeah, let's try it. And I think I made the phone call to Sharon the next day. It was around Christmas time. I remember that. And I made the phone call and reached out to Sharon, and the whole process started then.
Oh, wow. That's really great. But I understand that you named the kidney you donated something very interesting. I would love to hear the name and the story behind that.
My kidney's name is JDog.
Well.
And I got that name because my former job in Springfield, Illinois, a friend of mine, a coworker and friend, Brittany, she's former military. We used to walk on our lunch hour. And she used to always come up to me and say, are you ready, J-Dog? And I go, I'm ready, B-Dog. And we'd go walking. And that's how I came up with the name J-Dog and shared that with my recipient, Mark.
I love it. It's great. Who would have thought? I mean, J-Dog is my husband's Army nickname. He was 31 kilo back in the 80s, and they were wire dogs. So his name was Jerry J-Dog. But
oh, yeah.
We have something in common. I love it. Listeners, viewers, I would like to let you know about the Grunt Style Foundation. No veteran should go without Grunt Style is proud to assist in military transition and sustainment, food insecurities, and housing. It's a cause that, hey, we can all agree on. Help a veteran today. Be a part of the solution. Visit gruntstylefoundation.org to learn more about how the foundation is moving forward with purpose and how you can be a part of the mission. Jim and Julie, a question for both of you. What does Dove and the work that they are doing there mean to you?
Go ahead, Jim.
Sure, I'll jump in. The work that they're doing, it's through the process. You know, I was blessed with having a healthy donor that was ready to help me out. But the whole idea, and like was mentioned, she wasn't too far away from me, but they had no idea that I had this need. So there are people all over the country that they want to help. And there's all sorts of people in need, veterans, normal folks, civilians, whatever. But Dove is the glue that pulls all that together. And they're the key element into going from what's a minimal amount of success in finding and putting those together to Sharon's just been overwhelmed with folks that are looking for help and wanting to help as well. So that's incredible. She's the conduit to make the magic happen.
Wow. And Julie?
Yeah, for me, and you don't think about this before you become a donor, but after you have donated, I feel like I belong to a very elite group of people. And I've met through Zoom and through Sharon, other donors and their stories and what they went through. And it just helped me a lot to understand the need, but also to help someone. My donor recipient was 75 years old. And I donated to him because he's my husband's age. And I knew that Mark was going to get passed over because of his age.
Sure.
And that's why I chose Mark. Sharon told me about him. I didn't know him. He's from New Jersey. And I just felt like in a way, because of his age, I felt like not only was I helping Mark, I was helping Jeff, my husband.
Sure.
You know, to see that I understand the need. And, you know, I take care of him. My husband's in the hospital right now, but not with kidney situation, but I just felt the need to do it. And you want to make a mark in your life. And I feel like that's my mark. That's the mark I made in my life.
Wow. Incredible stories. Sharon, you truly are doing amazing work, and it seems to be so needed. And I guess you don't think about that there is a certain select group of people like our veterans, unfortunately, that the system that they're in somehow just isn't working like it should. And you recognize that need and provided something that they would not have had otherwise. So just really, really amazing. Hello, viewers and listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in to this very, very special episode of Tactical Treasures Podcast, where we've been speaking to the Dove team, Sharon Kreitzer, who is the founder, Jim Cochran, who is a Navy veteran and a recipient of a kidney, and Julie Donahue, who is a milspouse who is a donor. And how appropriate that we would be doing this podcast in April, which is National Donor Awareness Month. So there are approximately 2,000 veterans that are awaiting a life-saving kidney transplant at either a VA center or military hospital in the U.S., and the average wait for a kidney from a deceased donor is 3 to 5 years. Dove aims to lower these statistics. Donor Outreach for Veterans, also known as Dove, is a nonprofit that matches living donors with veterans, expediting the process and giving them a second chance at life. Dove also provides individualized support to any eligible veteran who is actively listed for a kidney transplant at any U.S. transplant center. Veterans, if you're in need of a kidney donation, please head to dovetransplant.org to register and get the resources and assistance that is available to you. And civilians, if you want to help our veterans in the ultimate way and become a living kidney donor, head to dovetransplant.org and fill out the form to become a donor. Now back to the podcast. But now I'd like to dive into each of your tactical treasures. Let's start with Sharon. What would you like to share with us today? What is your tactical treasure?
What we just heard from Julie and Jim, it's maybe not something I can present to you, but nothing feels more gratifying to me than to be, as Jim said, a conduit for this kind of life-affirming work. I think, and what I'd love everyone who listens to this podcast to understand is how much kindness there is in the world for people to step up and help each other, how gratifying it is for a person who gives, like Julie. You could see from her how meaningful this is for her and how life-affirming this is for her. It's not just to benefit a recipient. It really benefits the person who's giving. And I would like to even take it a step further, that for veterans or any recipient like Jim, it's a gift for them to allow people to give back to them. And in particular for veterans that are so stoic often, just to generalize a bit, and stubborn in asking for help. I just try to send that message that it's a gift for them to let the community help them, and that it's a two-way street. You're not allowed to always be the one that that gives to everybody else, and we need to give back in this meaningful way. And I truly hope that Dove can set an example for other communities to follow suit. I think that what's unique about what we're doing with the veteran community is that, we all see these one-off individual campaigns for that to try to help someone, but we're trying to really do it as a group to make sure the veterans know that they're asking not only will help themselves, but also someone else. Like, I believe Jim feels just as gratified that Mark got Julie's kidney as he got his. He feels pride that his sharing his story, which requires a lot of vulnerability to put your story on a news station that other people hear. It's very hard to do. And for him to know that led to Julie being moved, and that led to Mark being transplanted. And Mark now in New Jersey is a huge advocate for Dove and other veterans. It's just a ripple effect. And I know I'm answering this question too long, but it's
fine.
There's just that is the treasure of all of this. And it's not a hidden one. It's something we all just need to be reminded of.
Great. And somehow I knew that this was going to be your treasure. But and unfortunately it's a shame that some of our veterans, they are very humble about their service, and they're very humble about asking for help. So, and I think there's more people than they would even know that would do anything to support their service, what they've done, and give back to them, So, Jim, what is your tactical treasure?
Well, I think Sharon took a good chunk of it out of there. I was going to say my treasure was the gift of life. My kidney. It's just made such a big difference. I was weak prior to it. There were so many things I couldn't do, couldn't run, travel. I'm big into diving, and now later on this month, we're actually taking our daughters overseas on a trip that we promised them like 3 years ago that we couldn't do because of COVID and because of my kidney situation for their graduation. So it's been delayed 3 years. So we're very excited to be able to do something like that. So that's my treasure. But my tactical treasure is Sharon hit the nail on the head. I am a huge introvert. Doing any kind of public speaking is not easy at all for me, whether it's a podcast, a radio spot, or being on the news. So that was a huge ask when people in the community that wanted to help had connections, and hey, can we do this? Can we do a news story? Can we do a radio spot? In my mind, I was, I'll deal with whatever I have to deal with rather than do that. That's how hard it is for myself, and I know a lot of others to do something like that. But I bit the bullet, as they say, and my tactical treasure is really being blessed with this situation, with this story, and that's really the gift that was given to me. I had a need. My donor was healthy. They had a big heart, and Dove was the foundation that, brought us both together. And I have the honor of sharing my story with others to see that awareness being raised, good, caring people stepping up and taking action, and resulting in so many other veterans' lives like my own being rescued. And so I would challenge anyone, any ex-military, current military person out there was in a similar situation to myself. Speak up, contact Dove, work with folks, and focus on the good that your situation can do for others, not what you're going to get out of this situation, because I can tell you that's far more rewarding in my case than I got the gift of life. That was incredible, but still being able to help others is incredibly rewarding, and that goes to the foundation of what most of us military types focus on is still helping others in some way.
Yeah, that's great. So you don't public speak, huh? Well, you're doing a fine job, sir. Just wanted to throw that out there. And but you know what? I can relate to that because I had a fear of public speaking as well. And look at me, I'm doing a podcast and I've done interviews and sat on panels, and yeah, it's crazy. I've been stretched in ways that I never thought I would be. So it can happen. But thank you for coming out of your shell and being willing to share. Julie, what is your tactical treasure?
Well, like Jim, I'm sure you were hesitant, Jim, when they came to you and asked if you'd share your story on West TV. And mine was quite the opposite, that I was hesitant at first to do a podcast like this and to do a follow-up story, because I also was on West TV, because I thought, oh no, you got to be humble. You got to stay humble. You can't be, braggadocious. But when I thought about it more, I thought somebody may see your story just like I saw his story, and somebody might donate because of my story. So I had to get over that, staying humble, I guess. I had to just get past that. And so my treasure now is that I am part of and family of the Dove organization now. An organization I never thought in my whole life I'd ever be part of, but here I am. And so, that's my takeaway, and that's my treasure, and that's something I can say a lot of other people can't say.
Yeah, that's true. That's great. So besides being an incredible organization, it's created an amazing community that you all can be a part of, and that is very, very special. Veterans, military family members, if you're looking for an incredible opportunity, I would encourage you to check out JDogBrands.com. If you're interested in business ownership, if you're missing what was the best thing about your military service, being the camaraderie of fellow veterans, JDog is a place for you. If you go to JDogBrands.com, you can find out everything about JDog, including how to apply for franchise opportunities in either JDog Junk Removal and Hauling or our new division, Carpet Cleaning and Floor Care. And if you're looking to just be employed by a JDog, we have over 300 locations, close to 100 115 franchise owners, 90% veteran owned. You can go to the career page and fill out the form and see where we're hiring all across the country. And we connect you with your local JDog in your territory. So check us out, jdogbrands.com. So it's been so lovely to talk to all of you. But before you all go, I guess maybe this question is for Julie and Jim. Is there anything that you would like to say to people who may be considering to reach out to Dove, but maybe hesitant, or maybe there's a donor or a recipient, or maybe a donor actually that may be a little nervous about the whole process, but wanting to possibly take on something like this?
Well, I'll just tell you, as the donor, I mean, you have to be in pretty darn good shape to be a donor,
Mm-hmm.
but the whole process was really not that bad. The only thing I can say is that first step after the surgery was painful, but you get past it so quickly. It's like giving birth. You just forget about it.
Right.
You don't even realize what you've just been through. And I tell you, the staff, because I donated at Tampa General Hospital and my kidney was air vac to Hackensack the same day.
Mm.
That staff treated me like a queen. They were so gracious. They were so kind. Anything I needed, anything I wanted, they treated me so well that it made the process easy. Because I donated, actually, tomorrow's my kidneyversary.
Kidneyversary.
Year tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
And I was in the hospital on the 3rd and out of the hospital by the 5th. And, teaching water aerobics on the 23rd. So, it really wasn't what everybody thinks it is, like it's going to be horrible and bad and all this kind of stuff. It really wasn't. It was not that bad at all.
Wow. That's great. Jim, how about you? Any parting words?
I would just add to that anybody that's considering being a donor and that's having some hesitancy, go ahead and just reach out to the Dove group. A big part of this is education. There will be some people that aren't eligible for the process. And but there are other things that you can do to help and support the group. So don't let that deter you from contacting. And if you're afraid, Dove they'll put you in contact with other people that have gone through the process and answer any question you have. And it's amazing if you think that, hey, I want to give back to this veteran. This is something that I'd like to do, but I'm a little hesitant. Well, the impact is so much greater than that, because it didn't just affect me. It affected my immediate family significantly and my nuclear family around that. Yeah. When an illness like this comes in, everyone's affected. There are things you can't do. There's work you have to miss. And everybody deals with that. That there's obvious, physical repercussions, but there's also, psychological and mental. Family's sad that their family is suffering. So you wouldn't just be helping out this veteran; you'll be saving their family as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Great advice. Yeah. And that makes complete sense. Sharon, if people want to find out more information about Dove and sign up to be a recipient, how would they go about that, and where would they go?
The best way is to go on our website, which is www.transplant.org. And there's a tab for veterans, and there's a tab for donors. All you have to do is fill out that tab, which just asks for your name and the best way to reach you. And we will respond within 24 hours. And we prefer to set up a an intake call, which is via Zoom or the Teams video, where we can meet anyone who's inquiring and do a little bit of education. For veterans who would like to work with Dove, we do have two requirements. One, that the veteran is already listed. So that means that they've gone through the evaluation and they've been deemed an appropriate candidate for transplant. So we ask that they share their listing letter with us to confirm, and that they can share their discharge paperwork, their DD-214. So we can just confirm their military service history. Since many veterans who access us are not part of the VA or Walter Reed, that's the way that we do our vetting, just to confirm that they've served. And then we set up that intake meeting with them, and we set up a profile that not only shows that we're working with over 100 veterans now. If you visit our site, you'll see all the veterans that we're working with, but it's also a separate URL link that we give to the veterans so they could share within their communities. And the more people share, the better, because that amplifies awareness about Dove.
Sure.
And it also very likely will lead to a click for that veteran getting a donor, which is the case of Jim, where sometimes your own donor is going to come from your own neighborhood. Our Dove Team 3 was two detectives, that worked across the hall from each other, but the one detective never told his colleagues that he was on home dialysis for a year. So they found they say it took a national campaign from New Jersey to have them donate to him.
Wow.
So that's the best way to learn about Dove, reach out. And also we have a Get Involved tab, because as Jim said, even if donation isn't for you, spreading the word is a very easy ask that we can make of everybody, that you can do it in a general way, or you can actually champion a specific veteran. Many veterans don't have the support system that Jim had. And so I like to pair those veterans who may be more isolated with volunteers that take their story on and become their champion. And so, I tell all the veterans I work with, I can't promise you that we're going to find a living donor, but I want to promise you you're not going to feel alone. And that's something I can live up to. And I'm 100% accurate in that promise, and hopefully we'll also find a donor.
Right. One question that I hadn't asked: how are the expenses handled?
Great. I'm so glad you asked that. That's so important. The donor evaluation, the medical evaluation, is covered by the recipient veterans, either their transplant center or their health insurance. It depends. So once a donor is paired with a veteran, typically that donor is going to be referred to the associated living donor program of that same hospital where the veteran is listed and cared for. And all of that, from the initial screening to when they actually have to go in for the in-person evaluation, and then the surgery that usually takes place at the transplant center, and the medical costs are covered by the transplant center. What's sometimes not covered, which is very significant, are non-medical costs. Okay. So travel to the center, parking, lost wages, house sitting, fees, or whatever it is. Dove does fundraising, and we have resources that we can ensure that a donor doesn't have to pay any out-of-pocket expenses regarding any aspect from evaluation to post-recovery. So we really try to anticipate what some of those needs are and take that burden away from the donor. unfortunately, that doesn't happen without organizations like Dove, because it's
Sure.
it's kind of a hodgepodge of resources for donors to try to navigate, to figure out what's covered, what's not covered. So we really try to do that case management for the donors.
Yeah, that's great.
So with that being said, I would be remiss to not say to your audience, if anybody would like to also financially support our Living Donor Resource Fund, we welcome financial donors as well.
That's great. And all that money goes to future
All
donors.
of that money goes
Yes.
to that resource fund.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So thank you so much. Guys, this has been an amazing podcast. It was so very, very nice to meet and speak with all of you. And Sharon, thank you for your labor of love. It truly is a labor of love. And that's great. And I'm happy for you, Jim. You look and sound wonderful. And Julie, I love the name of your kidney. That's awesome. And thank you for, giving of yourself too. Your gift was amazing, and I'm sure has helped your gentleman that you gave to your veteran. So that's awesome. This has been great, guys. Thank you so much for sharing all that you did today. It was really wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hello, viewers and listeners. Thank you so much for tuning into this very, very special episode of Tactical Treasures podcast, where we've been speaking to the Dove team. Sharon Kreitzer, who is the founder, Jim Cochran, a Navy veteran and a recipient of a kidney, and Julie Donahue, a donor. There are approximately 2,000 veterans that are awaiting a life-saving kidney transplant at either a VA center or military hospital in the U.S., and the average wait for a kidney from a deceased donor is 3 to 5 years. Dove aims to lower these statistics. Donor Outreach for Veterans, also known as Dove, is a nonprofit that matches living donors with veterans, expediting the process and giving them a second chance at life. Dove also provides individualized support to any eligible veteran who is actively listed for a kidney transplant at any U.S. transplant center. Veterans, if you are in need of a kidney donation, please head to dovetransplant.org to register and get the resources and assistance that is available to you. And civilians, if you want to help our veterans in the ultimate way and become a living kidney donor, head to dovetransplant.org and fill out the form to become a donor. And amazing that this episode is airing in April, which happens to be National Donor Awareness Month. So thank you so much for tuning into this very special episode of Tactical Treasures podcast. We'll see you next time.